All right, what's going on? So what we're gonna do, we're pumping exposed aggregate mix, which is basically what you see right here. It's got a whole bunch of 3/8 round stone in it, and place it, float it, spray some surface retarder on top. A couple hours later, come back, pressure wash the surface off because there was the retarder on it. It exposes the rock, and this is what you end up with. So as you can imagine, it's a really, really rocky mix. Fortunately, it's all round rock, so it's not as terrible as you might think. That being said, it still is and can be challenging. So what we did here was we got about 225 feet of hose. I ran a bit of 3-inch off the back here because I actually ran out of 2.5. What I've done, I've thrown a bucket of bentonite in the back elbow as I normally do. I also threw a bucket of bentonite, 3 hoses up here into the 3-inch to 2.5 reducer. But before I did any of that, we pieced all the line together. I threw a bucket of bentonite in the hose and put my my trusty blowout cap on and my sponge in, and we pushed all that bentonite through at the start just to kind of pre-slick the hoses, just because this stuff can be a real bear to prime through. Okay, so you get the gist of it anyhow. The only poopy thing sometimes about pre-sliming the hose is then a bunch of bentonite after that. It can slick things up so much that a mix that otherwise is not pumpable through said size of line will actually get through the hose, and once the bentonite burns off, then it has pumpability issues, and now you're stuck with all your hoses full of concrete. So, but that won't happen today. I don't think. I hope not. Cross my fingers. Now let's back this guy up. A little tight here. Canopy of trees. So what I've been doing lately here? Is holding this reducer up with my chains so that when my bentonite, after I've thrown it in the elbow, it doesn't spill back out. So I leave this on a slight incline. So I hold it up with a chain, take a few strokes. Once it's through, I'll loosen that chain off and drop this down. And what that chain is for is to keep this from, if it ever had a failure at the clamp or the flange, from blowing into the driver. So because I'm going to bang this job out and ride dirty to another one, I've loaded up under my S-tube with dirt. That perfect slump of dirt. And when we get going with this stuff off the prime, because of the amount of rock in the concrete, I'm just going to keep the agitator in reverse so it doesn't push that rock from the concrete into the barrels. And no, it's not going to push the dirt into the cylinders. I know everybody's going to say that. I promise people, it won't do it. So he's going to slump up. Challenge with this stuff, you can't get it too wet, otherwise the rock will sink down from the surface, and when you go to expose it, you won't have the stone count at the surface. So you have to pump it as dry as you possibly can, and we got to pump it 225 feet. And yeah, so it's there's a lot of variables here that makes this very, very, very intricate, but we'll get her done. Yeah, normally for a job like this, we probably would lay out a bunch of steel pipe. There was not a lot of detail prior to this pour, so we're just kind of making it work with what we have here. But this would be a prime candidate for a whole bunch of steel pipe. But we're only pouring a half a load here, about 7 yards of concrete. So I'll just pump it nice and slow. As long as we get it through the hose, we're good. The other crappy thing is I have the previous generation of Aircom remote here, which has great signal range, but this is a really bad area, so I only get to the corner of the house and it cuts out. I can't even get to the end of the hose, which kind of sucks. Ian's pump, Ian got the fancy new one, the Trident X, which has like, I don't know what it is, like 3 times the range of this one. So, like I said, this one's usually pretty good too. It's just for whatever reason, this particular area, we're down by the water here. It's always been a challenge for signal strength. So, got to get me a Trident X for this pump too. Yeah, the old dog got the 225-foot line job. It's rocky, but it's round. The slump is good. All right, rock and roll. boys ready with the barrel? Run! Oh, my radio cuts out right there. Oh, that's annoying. Someone's gonna have to stand at the corner, Jair, and just signal me because my radio cuts out. Okay. For whatever reason, it's a really bad spot for signal strength.
So you're gonna be here?
I'll be right here, yeah. Can you just yell to me when that primes through, once that's through? It sounds good. It should come through no problem. But yeah, I can't. It's a bad spot for radio range. Yeah, it cuts out pretty quick. It's usually a little bit funky out here for signal.
That's for your control?
Yeah, for my wireless. It's always been a bit of a weird spot.
There we go.
Yeah, it sounds good.
That's a good sound.
It is. Concrete in the hose, actually moving. That's what we aim to achieve.
And you can sort of feel it there, I bet.
You can, yeah. Yeah, especially with this mix, you can feel the rock going through. I think we got it and we're pumping.
So you can't even
No, it's, yeah. Usually I can go about 400 feet with this thing, but today it's about 200, 150. That's got to be through by now. How's it, Jair? Is it through? Did we make it through? Okay, and they're pouring now? Okay, I'm just going to step back to the corner. Just yell if you want to stop. Okay. All right, we did it. Primed through, and it seems to be pumping well. That makes me very happy. And we're just going to go slow here because all the rubber, I don't want the hose kicking all over the place. Like I said, it's only a half a load here, so we're not, we don't need to wind this thing up and try and set any records. Yeah, so far the stuff's pumping great. Hose ain't moving around too much. Got the old pumper caddy in position. Not out here to set any records, just get the concrete where it needs to go. Nothing fancy today. Stuff's pumping great. Great. Pressure gauge is nice and low. She's hardly even working. We're also pumping super slow. But yeah, the slump is a little bit wetter than ideal. Like I was saying before about not wanting the rock to sink, that's a little bit wetter than what we want. But I just have to be a little bit more careful placing it. Not to move the mud around any more than necessary once it's on the ground. Because every movement can possibly drop those rocks. You want to keep them all right up at the surface there for a nice finish. A nice exposure. Back in the day, 80s, 90s, even early 2000s, the bread and butter was seeded exposed aggregate. So they would still use this mix, but they would also bring in a dump truck full of straight rock, take it in wheelbarrows, take it out to the pour area, and seed it in the surface, sprinkle it on the surface, and then float it in. And then when you would expose it, you get a higher stone count at the surface. And then for the control joints, they'd actually use zinc strips. They would embed zinc strips, and it was absolutely beautiful. These days, just nobody wants to pay for it. And the other thing is the exposed mixes from the ready mix plant have gotten so good that it doesn't look that much better to the point where, you know, it's justifiable, the extra cost for most people. So occasionally we still do it, usually when we're just matching up the old stuff that was poured 20, 30 years ago. But it looks absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, a bit of a lost art in our area. And then when they would do things like the faces of steps, this is a curb wall, but just for instance, the face of the step, they'd pump 3 strokes of concrete into a wheelbarrow, dump a couple buckets of rock in, mix it all together, and then by hand pack against the face with the heavy rock mix, so that when they strip the faces and expose them, they had just as high of a stone count as the stuff they were seeding on the horizontal surfaces. quite a process. Maybe someday we'll get one of those jobs and we'll show you. But like I said, they're few and far between these days, which is probably for the best considering the labor shortage. We can't find guys to run a pump truck these days, let alone trying to find guys to run a wheelbarrow and mix rock by hand all day long. Back to what I was mentioning with the radio control and the signal not having great range here today. The other thing with this location, see out to the ocean there, we are straight across from the US. We're right near the border. And as you get close to the border, there's some funky things that can happen with cell phone signal, radio frequencies, things like that. So that may play a role in this. Because like I said, I'm getting maybe 200 feet of range out of this thing today, and it's usually good for 400 or 500. So definitely an interesting one. I'd love to get the Trident X out here. This would be the test for it. See how she would perform. So yeah, if we do, oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, we might have taken a little too much, but nothing crazy. No, that's good. Yeah, so my hopper will square that up, and then the lines will be 2 barrels short of filling that. And we don't have any extra concrete on site. Perfect. Okay, I'll go get him to scrape out. Yes, we're intentionally trying to leave this a couple wheelbarrows short. We can just grab it off the mixer and wheel it out. That way we don't have a bunch of extra concrete on site to deal with. So yeah, my hopper on this pump holds 10 strokes when it's full. So they let me know when they're 10 strokes from being to the point where whatever's left in the lines will just about square up. So I'll get the driver here to scrape out. All right, give me a little splash and then I'll scrape you out, and I got enough in the, just a splash of concrete, yeah. Yeah, and then I'll have enough in the hopper to finish. Kind of. Yeah, fill this, then I'm gonna pump down, I'm gonna blow the lines out, and we're intentionally leaving it short. We'll probably come back and grab like 2 wheelbarrows from your chute. They don't have a bunch of extra concrete on site, so maybe if we get really lucky, we have just enough, but I'm not that good. Yeah, it's good. The scraper out will be bang on, nice and full. All right, I'll throw on my Muddy Feet spec lid. A makeshift hopper lid. Putzmeister guys, you need these. Works great as a lid. All the splashing is from where the S-tube and the barrel openings are. So I set it back a little bit. It covers any splash so that we don't get my already dirty lid even more dirty. We're just pumping down when we first hit air here anyhow. But yeah, these are Tractor Supply Company. Don't get the ones from Lowe's. The ones from Lowe's are really brittle plastic and they just crack. They don't last. Tractor Supply Company. That's the one you want. Anyhow, we'll pump this down. And then we'll commence with the blowout. Just pump it, or I'm just gonna pump it here till I feel it hit that first stroke of air. Okay, ready? Pump on. And then what I'll do is I'll take 1 stroke in reverse before I go back and bust that hose off and put my air cap on, or my blowout cap. Otherwise, if I get air trapped in there and I pop that clamp off, I'm gonna get a little poof, and I don't want a little poof. So this is the 3rd stroke. Remember I said 10 and then it would pull air? Here's the 4th stroke. Fifth stroke. Sixth stroke. He's really happy about it down there. 7th stroke. 8th stroke. Well, we only got 8 strokes and we pulled air. All right, we're good. 1 stroke in reverse. We'll do 2, just for good measure. Good. Yeah, maybe we weren't quite as full. I think it's 10 strokes and I'm filled right to the rubber collar, but close enough. Let's see how we look here. Oh, he did pretty good. Yeah, I'll blow out, and we will need 2 barrels. Yeah, 2 or 3 barrels. I don't really want to take any more, so okay. I'll go back. I'll put the air on it. I'll give you some glasses because you're the blowout guy, right? Are you gonna be the blowout guy?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll just get somebody on the corner, yell to me, maybe Darian. I'll tell him when the hose gets light, and then I'll start bleeding the air down. So just give me about 2 minutes. I won't do anything before letting you know. All right, hopper is nice and low. We like that. Just bust off here. Yeah. All right. Grab a pair of glasses for Chris. So your job, sir, when it gets real light right here, let me know.
Okay.
You've got one job.
Yeah, buddy.
There you go. You're safe now.
Okay.
And the hose is going to point this way.
Keep your hands out of your pants.
You can blast the camera.
Ooh.
Just don't blast the house.
Yeah, I'm gonna work my way back.
I bet.
I'd work the other way.
But I don't want, if any air goes out, it goes against.
He's right.
But if he's got rock, if he blows it, you got glass right there.
That's why I said we're
Point it
working
that
our
way.
way back.
Yeah, I'd go back.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's
Yeah, because
why I don't
sometimes you
want
get air pockets like mid blowout, like little farts. So my bet is that pouring back, we are going to square up to exactly right here, and we'll be short 1.3 wheelbarrows. Over under?
Coffee.
Who's over and who's under?
I'll just
hold your piece.
So where do you want when
I'll just be
you're
skywatch.
Yeah, when it gets to the corner, I'll be tracking it on the air gauge too. But when it gets like real light here,
Yeah.
like you'll know when.
No.
when it's
Well,
empty.
he'll know.
You'll know. You'll know. Yeah, just, you'll know, and you let me know.
It's been many years.
Yes, yes.
This is Patty guy. We're gonna be 4 wheelbarrow short, guys.
He says to right here.
Ready, set it on camera.
It's on camera.
All right, it's go time. We'll idle this thing up a little bit, just so it's producing a reasonable amount of air. The worst thing about this red and tacky Lucas grease, it works great, but man, It's tacky, hence it sticks to everything. But it's good stuff, aside from that. $10, $20, $40, $60. It's just a little cleaner just for the camera, but I know where the numbers are. 20, 40, 60, anyhow. Air on. Now this is gonna move real slow at the start, and I'm actually just gonna follow it. And the further along it gets, the more volume of air in the hoses, the faster it's gonna move. So here we go. At 60 pounds. Yeah. Okay, the sponge has just started moving. And you'll feel when these are empty, they get light. But yeah, it's real slow at the start. But you gotta be careful. It'll be going along real slow, and then when it starts to go, and you gotta be in position and ready. I got a 3-inch softball in there, so I'm gonna push that all the way through. It'll squeeze down through the 2 to 2.5 taper, or sorry, 3 to 2.5 taper, no problem. So I blow it all out in one shot. For a 3-inch hard ball, that would be a no bueno. But I can feel this moving. The other way you can do it is just put your foot under it. And as soon as it gets light, you'll feel. Like I said, it's real slow at the start. But the more hoses that get emptied and displaced with air, the more stored energy you have, the faster she starts to rock and roll. So okay, that's just about empty now. Yeah, that one's empty. First 3-inch hose is empty. Oh, that's empty too. See, it's already picking up steam. We're full here. As soon as we get through that reducer, I'm going to go back and I'm just going to watch the air gauge. I'm going to use that to monitor my progress. You can tell a lot from the air gauge. The air gauge will speak to you. Sponge is coming over my foot right about now. These hoses are brand new, so it's actually a little bit tougher to tell because they're pretty heavy even when they're empty. But yeah, I think we're empty. Yeah, we're empty there. How are we doing up here? We're still full. Still full. Sponge just went through the joint. Right around here. Still full here. So we get through the taper, we're in good shape. It's the biggest challenge, just when it reduces down like that. On a long run with a stiff mix, pushing through the taper like that can be not a great idea. You've only got 120 psi with air. The pump makes 1100 psi, so you're not going to push with air like you would with the pump. And you don't want to have to max that thing out to 100 psi with air either. Not a good idea. Keep around 60. Still full here. But I can feel it moving. She's coming. Oh, okay, we're empty now. Okay, we should be at this taper right now. Yep, we're moving through the taper. Feel the sponge right here, right now. Coming through. All right, now we're empty here. Maybe we'll go one more hose here before I run back to the gauge. Got movement here. Good movement here. Once I feel this is empty, I'm gonna go back to my gauge. I'm gonna go now even. You can feel that's really picking up steam. go back and cut this air down to about 40 pounds. Which I'll do here with my bleeder port. So we're at about 60 right now. I'm just gonna watch that needle. The needle is the sign of progress. Unless you have any significant air leaks where your air is bleeding off. In this case, we don't. I mean, obviously you can hear a little bit of one around the valve here, but it's nothing major. And we're just gonna watch this gauge. And you'll see as that sponge gets closer to the end, it's this gauge is really gonna start to fall. And I may even at that point crack the bleeder valve and bleed it down further. But as you can see, she's picking up steam somewhat. Anything more than about 30 pounds when that sponge exits the hose is gonna be messy. The target is 5 to 10 pounds. That's like the perfect blowdown. But anything under 20 is pretty reasonable. But 5 to 10 is what we strive for. Anything over 30 is real messy, but reasonable-ish. Yeah, to do this without the gauge, I would have a heck of a time doing it with any sort of precision. The air gauge is kind of my, that's what I rely on here. That's what tells me what's going on. I know Jeff at Muddy Feet does it with his thumb and has amazing success, but that's like Jedi stuff. I wouldn't trust myself to be able to get it that finely tuned by feel. So I rely on a little bit of technology. And then what I'll do, once it gets down to about 30, I'm gonna walk out and do a quick little progress check. What is ideal here, what we should have is radios. Like I said, this job was sort of we're kind of sent into battle blind here. So I do not have the radios today, unfortunately. But I'm very confident in my abilities just going off of the air pressure gauge. And she's still moving along and progressing nicely. I don't know how I'm going to edit this. I want to edit this part shorter, but I just feel like every step of it is so very critical, even though it might be slow and monotonous to watch. Doesn't seem like much is going on, but definitely the stress level and required level of attentiveness here is maximum. And I really want to nail this one. Not only for the sake of safety, obviously, but I got my camera out there in the end. I want to catch the perfect blowout. That's the goal. As Ian mentioned in one of our interviews with the operator series there, it's all about the perfect prime and the perfect blowout. That's how us line pumpers get our kicks. Okay, so we're sitting at about 30 right now. I'm gonna go and do a little hose check now. If that were to come through even at 30, it's not gonna be dangerous by any means. So I'm gonna go check. Maybe I'll just yell to my buddy and see how he's doing on the corner. How is it? Still full? Is it? Okay. Empty here. Oh yeah, okay. And It's still moving. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it low and let it do its thing then. Because we're close now. Darren, can you go to like the second to last joint? And Jair, can you stand back here and you yell to him and you yell to me? And then we'll really nail it. I'm still not going to be able to hear him. That's okay. Just keep it at about 30 until it gets real close. And then I'll see that gauge drop quickly, rapidly. And I'll use my my bleeder port to dial it in for the last run. So I'm going to give it a little bit here. Get a little bit of air. Kill the air. Let's just watch our gauge now. Extra attentiveness here because we are working at a beautifully finished, well-maintained property. The goal here is leave the place as clean as we found it, except with a new concrete patio. It's kind of what we charge. We're not about trying to bang out 5 or 6 jobs in a day. We just try and get a couple jobs in, but do a good professional job and charge for it accordingly. There is a market for everything. Okay, that's got to be getting real close to the end now. Come on, baby. That is enough air pressure to bring this home at 20 pounds. Okay, now we're moving. I know I've said that about 10 times now, but it's true. Beauty. Let's see what we got.
Okay,
Take
kill
one
it.
for the team.
I feel like my estimate for how much concrete we put in there might be a little short. But let's go see. So how was it?
Super good.
Was it? Super good? Oh my God.
Tanked a
Yeah,
little bit.
a little splash, but that was like bang on with the concrete almost. Woohoo! Beauty. But it came through pretty gentle?
Yep, for the most part.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Pretty much. What is this, the third barrel?
Yeah, probably gonna be one more after this.
You think it'll be one more? Okay. What did I say? I said 2 barrels, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You told me half.
Yeah, that's, you know what? Those are small barrels too.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, I speak in full barrel language, so.
Well, we don't want to make it.
So I'll call that that's a 3/4 barrel.
Yeah. So one more after this.
Oh, you need one more beyond that?
Pretty sure, probably.
No.
It'll be really close.
Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Oh, and a bucket maybe. So can we agree that was 4 half barrels so far? What did I say, Raj? 2 or 3? What was the over under?
We're over the estimated.
What was my estimate again?
1.5.
Oh God, okay. I'm out. See you later. Have fun.
Two more of those baby ones.
What do you close it up, then you retard it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do you just like
We
sweep,
have to
sweep trowel
close
it?
it, cut it, edge it, spray it.
And then spray it last, and then give it a couple hours,
Once
and
you've
then
got all the edging and all the tooling that you need to do done,
Yeah.
you spray it.
then you spray it, and then give it a couple hours.
Because
And
then you work the retarder in deeper, and then you'll have.
oh well, you don't want to give away too many secrets.
Yeah, can you tell him?
Yeah, trade secrets. We'll edit that out. Okay. Perfect. Yeah, so what they essentially do is they spray sugar water on top. And I think some guys, old school guys, still actually use sugar water for that. Even the stuff marketed as retarder is essentially sugar water. So it keeps the surface soft and it can cure underneath, and when they rinse it away, you don't blast the rocks out. But like Rick was saying, he retards it after all the hand tooling has been done, so you're not working that retardant in below the surface and penetrating into this area, which is what you don't want. So
We've just done a quick sweep of it, made sure that all the lumps are out. You don't overwork the surface, so you're going to bury the rock too far down. And then you edge it, make sure you get your cuts in, sweep it, edge it, and then spray it. Before it gets too hard, let that retarder penetrate into the surface a bit.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I'm gonna see they're gonna. I've asked the boys if they can take a little bit of footage of when they rinse it and expose it and send it to me. So we'll get that in here too. All right, that's it. We are all packed up. Hoses are all loaded up. The beauty of blowing the sponge, sure, don't even need to rinse anything off. I just rinse my my gaskets out for my clamps, and everything goes on the truck. So we're gonna do right now my favorite product in the world. Because we're going straight to another job and it's about an hour away, I'm gonna put this on cycle mode, and we're gonna cycle some delay through here. Once we get this moving, there we go, like so. I got just barely enough to cycle in here. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit in. It doesn't take a lot. I don't have a lot in this hopper right now, so we'll get some across the back there. Say, yeah, that's about all it's going to take. That was about a measuring cup. If I hadn't displaced with dirt at the back of the hopper, I would take a stick and knock that stuff in and mix the delay set around, but that's all dirt across the back, so we're going to leave that intact. And we'll just spin this around a few strokes. As you can see, the delay set product itself brings the slump way up without even adding any extra water. I'll spin that around while I'm throwing my last couple things on the truck here, and we'll check in before we pull out. I gotta say, overall, I'm super happy with how that went. Not a drop of concrete on the ground on this beautiful finished property. Primed out in one shot, blew out almost perfect. I would give it a 7.3 out of 10. I've done better, I've definitely done worse. And no mess on the ground, no nothing. Everything worked out really, really well. So not too shabby for Monday. But that's it's the mentality of a pump operator. Every job, it's kind of like striving for the perfect job, right? This one was pretty darn close to that. I'm pretty happy with it. So on to the next one. All right, just like that, we are finito and gonna hit the road. On to the next job here. One of these days, I'll set the camera when I got all the hose peeled off here and I throw it back on, because I'm super happy with how this all lays out. 3-inch hoses, which we rarely use, are wrapped in the middle there. 2.5s on one side, 2s on the other. 225 feet of 2, 175 of 2.5, 60 feet of 3-inch, and there's 50 feet of 3-inch steel pipe underneath that deck there. But it makes it so much easier getting the hoses on and off when you just do it from one side. You don't have to slide them over, run around to the other side, drag it across. It makes this pump a pleasure to run. And I gotta say, man, this is a 2004 model. No computers, no emissions stuff, just straight up pumping. It makes the days far less stressful. Very simple, straightforward, gets the job done. I love this little pump. It's yeah, it's been a really great unit for us. We've had it since new, and we'll probably have it for many more years too, because it just keeps on pumping concrete and it keeps on making money, which is what it's all about. So anyhow, oh yeah, if you haven't seen, we're giving away the Schwing 51 SX model concrete pump this month for the best constructive comment in the comments section. Comment, question, conversation, starting statement, whatever it may be. Best one of the month is going to win the Schwing 51 meter die cast model concrete pump. So anyhow, like, share, subscribe, ×3, over and out. Before we go, what happened to the tool truck? It's like you're in a NASCAR race?
Yeah, this one building came out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere, yeah. You're at Daytona 500. You need the tire marks up the side of the box, up the side of the bed. Wow, was that all you?
Partially.
It was partially all you. Holy. Wow.
This part was on me.
Is there any panels that aren't dented? No, there's a couple. Oh, no, not that door.
That's balls deep.
We got a good fender, we got a good hood. Oh, yeah, we got a pretty solid front clip. And one good door?
Not even.
No, not even, no. Looking good, man, sweet.
Needs to retire.
Yeah, no. I think if you were if you're vying for a new pickup, this was probably not the best way to do it. And this one's got no air conditioning.
No,
so you better, there's incentive right there to up your game.
Roll that window down, I'm done.
It's not that hot out. See you later.